Tonight on Bob Larson Live, demonic displays on public property. Does the Constitution of the United States of America prohibit or endorse such things? You're going to find out. For years, a legal confrontation has been brewing. An organization called the Satanic Temple has been trying to erect Baphomet statues of the devil on public property. They succeeded, at least temporarily, in places like Illinois, where they did it right in the rotunda, the state capitol, Michigan, Arkansas, Iowa, Oklahoma, and they've also gotten satanic reading clubs into the public schools for little children in several cities. Now the First Amendment fight comes to the United States of America in the state of Arizona. And what they're bringing forward, I believe, is bogus. But tonight, I'm going to take on the controversy of whether or not American liberties include putting demon displays on public property. Like and share. It's always good to do that. It helps our standing on YouTube and in social media. Plus, by sharing, you allow somebody else the opportunity of participating in this evening. Also, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you know what's going on with this ministry and you get the alerts for new things that are coming your way. And thank you so much for all of your prayers and support during this difficult start to the new year with the major surgery that I had on my foot. I'm still in a cast after all this time and will be for several more weeks, then a walking cast. So it's been quite an ordeal. And thank you for all of your financial help and assistance, as this has had an impact on the organization, with my duties being somewhat limited. But here I am, healthy behind the microphone, so to speak, and ministering and doing virtual encounters, even some in-person encounters. So your prayers have held me up, and we ask you to continue to support this ministry. You can do so by going to boblarson.org, clicking on donate, or texting the word give to 833-361-4711. They'll get that number up on the screen so that you can stand by this ministry on a regular basis. The First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America is a document that has been fought over for decades and decades. Let me read it to you exactly. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. A group called the Satanic Temple says this gives them the right to erect statues of Satan, the devil, depicted by the bisexualized demon god Baphomet on public property. And this is in places maintained by taxpayers' money. Well, the question we're asking tonight is this what our founding fathers envisioned? Is this what they intended by the First Amendment? Now, when I asked a moment ago for you to stand by this ministry, one of the best ways that you can do that is enrolling at Bob Larson University. That's a win-win. It helps us. Your tuition is tax deductible, and it supports the ministry, but at the same time, you have a learning environment to discover the depths of spiritual warfare that you never imagined. And then, of course, for your income tax deductible gift of just $20 a month to support this ministry, you can have membership in Ex Dunamis, our streaming platform. As you've heard me say before, there's never been anything like it in the history of Christianity or the church. First of all, the internet and social media wasn't even there until not long ago. But what we've done is to put up there hundreds of videos, training, teaching, inspiring. I've described it as the best spiritual insurance policy you could have for $20 a month. But because that is a gift to the ministry, it also regularly, with your support, enables us to continue doing what we do, to fight the fight we fight against the forces of darkness, and most importantly, give hope to the hurting. Reach out to people who are suffering from the torment of the enemy and see them set free in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. And we're constantly adding new things to Ex Dunamis, the streaming platform. And one of the things that has really excited me is that we launched a couple of months ago is what we call a quick guide to cults. Now, many of you know I've taught on this subject for years. Our book on cults, which has had several reprints, is used in many Bible colleges and seminaries across America. It's a recognized classic work on the subject. But what I'm doing is something brand new, teaching on video about the history and the founding of cults, specific ones, of course, and then where they depart from biblical belief, and then 3, how to get free from that cult. And the first 3 cults that we selected is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, LDS, the Mormons, and the second one, the Masons. And now we have just released the latest 3 brand new teaching videos. Adding to the Mormons and the Masons, this one is on Jehovah's Witnesses. Let's talk about the Bible and Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses are as much known for their strange beliefs as they are for their apocalyptic theology. As I've already stated in the basics of Jehovah's Witnesses, they do not donate vital organs or receive transplants. But they also have other odd ideas. Until 1952, they would not receive smallpox vaccinations. They also refused to vote, salute the flag, or sing the Star-Spangled Banner, or any national anthem. And they will not serve in the armed forces. Of these and the other strange ideas, JW members are utterly convinced they are right and the rest of the world is wrong. They consider themselves to be the sole possessors and propagators of God's truth. Other so-named Christian sects and denominations are all the work of the devil. In 1879, a Bible study leader named Charles Taze Russell, mentioned in part 1 of this guide, was looking for a way to expound his peculiar teachings. He departed from orthodoxy by denying the existence of hell, the Holy Trinity, the deity of Christ, so that he could reach a larger audience. He co-published a magazine called The Herald of the Morning with its founder, N.H. Barber. By 1884, Russell controlled the publication and renamed it The Watchtower Announcing Jehovah's Kingdom. So what about demonic displays on public property? The idea that anyone would openly worship the devil in the public square was unthinkable to the founders of the United States of America. The so-called Establishment Clause of the First Amendment, when it was written, it was a way to avoid government-sponsored religion, state churches, which was very common in Europe at that time. In fact, many of the people who came to the United States of America came from England to escape the persecution of the king. And the king was the titular head of the Church of England. So he didn't have a lot of choices. They came here for freedom of religion, not freedom from religion or the institution of demon-based, Satan-based ideologies. Now, in fact, in Germany today, and I've been to Germany, and of course I have friends over there, certain religious groups, even now, are taxed 8 to 9% a year. That's right off the top of your income. If you are an official member of what they call an evangelical, it's not necessarily what we mean by evangelical in America, but that's the term used, a Reformed, a Protestant, or a Catholic, or you belong to a Jewish synagogue. So if your name is on the rolls, you get taxed. I've actually met Germans who have declared they are atheists to avoid paying that tax. Just imagine, almost 10% off the top in addition to what we already pay in oppressive taxes. Well, they wanted to get away from that. And so the First Amendment, that's why it's there. But is religious liberty really what the Satanic Temple wants? Or is there another agenda? That's what we're going to explore tonight. To get us started on that, there's no place that explains it better than I have in Bob Larson University, in Department Number 3, the College of Apologetics and Demonology. Now, I have a lengthy teaching about demonology, the development of demonology through the ages, and specifically the development of Satan-worshiping groups in the 20th and 21st century. And the best thing that I can do for you right now is give you a small portion of that teaching. Now, keep in mind, Bob Larson University is 60 courses, more than 50 hours of professionally produced video instruction. So I'm just taking less than 1% of it, but it will explain to you what this business of theistic and non-theistic Satanism is all about. And that's important to understand in regards to this First Amendment argument that's put out by the Satanic Temple. So take a look at the Department of the College of Apologetics and Demonology and a small portion about the teaching of the theology of Satanism in course number 9. I've thoroughly covered in my various books the rise of Satanism in the 20th century through groups such as the Theosophical Society and the openly demonic Ordo Templi Orientis. Most famous of these Satanists was the British black magician Aleister Crowley. Crowley was raised in a devout Christian home, but he came to call himself the Beast 666. Simultaneously, satanic groups were arising throughout Europe, often under the terms of brotherhoods, like the Great White Brotherhood. Though these groups varied widely, they all centered on the idea that the biblical God is evil, and the serpent in Eden got a raw deal and should be returned to his true throne of the universe. Satanism, Luciferianism. In the 1980s, the satanic scare became popular fodder for talk shows and books like Michelle Remembers, in which a woman recounted memories of babies being sacrificed to Satan. It shocked millions. I was a keen observer of those times, and my first published novel, Dead Air, which was about satanic ritual abuse, became a bestseller, fiction based on fact. But I can tell you this, everything in that book and other comments I made at that time of the so-called satanic panic were based on actual encounters with real people who had been horrifically abused in secret satanic groups. In many cases, I was able to corroborate their stories, and I worked with secular psychologists who documented the abuse. Eventually, in America, the idea of satanic cults died down. The media lost interest in the sensationalism of these accounts, but the problem didn't go away. It still persists today. Satanic ritual abuse happens, but in a much more secretive manner. The biggest impact of devil worship and Satanism has been through groups such as Anton LaVey's Church of Satan, based on the Satanic Bible, published in 1969. I'm not going to deal at length with the Church of Satan, because I've adequately covered that in other books and videos, but I do mention it here as an example of an archetypal atheistic form of Satanism. That is, not believing in a literal devil, but worshiping him as the embodiment of all that is evil and forbidden. This led later to the Satanic Temple, which now emphasizes political action and lobbying for the right to worship the devil openly. Such groups vehemently insist that they don't believe in a real devil. They only use the image for public notoriety. The idea of the devil is their cultural narrative to further their ideas of rebellion and lust. Now we're going to get specific about the Satanic Temple. So, as I've just explained, they are not real Satanists. They don't believe in a literal devil. He's a metaphoric figure that, as Anton LaVey believed, is the expression of the ultimate freedom to do anything you want to do. Or as Aleister Crowley, the famous British Satanist in the early part of the 20th century, said, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." In other words, do anything you want to. That's the only law you have to follow. If it feels good, do it, as they said back in the 60s. So they're not really worshiping Satan, not the Satan that we know in this book. All right? They are worshiping an image of the devil, but again, they take all the psychological understanding in our culture of what Satan means, the graphic, visual understanding of what Satan means. That's why they use this symbol of Baphomet. But they don't really worship Baphomet. Not really. They don't worship it. They just use it because of its hideousness and its shock value. So here's this demon god, which by the way is an actual demon, an actual evil spirit by that name that I've cast out thousands of times in people. And it's got sexual organs, both male and female. It has female breasts. And if you look closely, you can see the stylized penis of the male genitalia. And then it has a goat's head with a beard and the goat's horns, the classic symbol of the worship of Lucifer, and cloven hooves. And usually, when they want this in the public square, they also add to it two little children looking up, smiling at this hideous thing, as if they're adoring it. And then, of course, it holds the fingers up like that, which means, "I am a god." That's the ancient symbol of that. So that's Baphomet, half animal, half human, male and female. Now, the historical Baphomet was known to the ancient Greeks. This goes way back to what was called the goat of Mendes, which was worshipped in bestial rituals, pagan idols. But the modern interpretation of this supposedly developed in the Middle Ages with what's known as the Knights Templar. Now, these were the Crusader knights, the warriors who guarded the pilgrims on their way to the Holy Land and back, these various pilgrimages that took place. They amassed a huge amount of money. And I talk all about this and explain it in my book, Freedom from Freemasonry, because they were looking after the resources of the pilgrims. Very dangerous journey all the way from Europe to Jerusalem. So they collected this massive amount of money, and this greatly, greatly concerned Philip IV of France, because this became a rivalry to his power in that part of the world at that time. And the King of France and the Pope, they were like that. It was one, church, state, France, the Catholic Church, and so on. So all of this was a rivalry to King Philip. So he decided he had to crack down on the Templars. And there's writings about this Baphomet being that go back even to the 11th century. So he accused them of worshiping Baphomet and committing heretical acts. And specifically this bearded, bisexualized being called Baphomet. So what he did then was he had them persecuted, he had them killed, he had them slaughtered, he had them burned, and then they went underground. And that leads into Freemasonry and a bunch of other stuff. But we just focus on the fact that Baphomet was one of the main deities that was connected with the Knights Templar and the Black Mass and the worship of Satan, because they turned to the dark side. They were so angry after their religious devotion. They were angry at the King of France for persecuting them after they had given up so much to get the pilgrims to the Holy Land and back. So this idea of the worship of Baphomet went underground and eventually was resurrected by people like Aleister Crowley and others and the Temple Orders, the Golden Dawn, and all these other groups that were secretive esoteric orders in the first part of the 20th century. So this god Baphomet was believed to be a god who knew good and evil and knew sex magic. And fast forward to where we have now. This image that the Satanic Temple is trying to put into the public square. Now, what stirred me up to talk about this was, as I said earlier, they've done this and accomplished it in a number of states, or certainly have attempted to. But now they want to put up one of these statues in a public setting that is underwritten by the taxpayers of the state of Arizona. And it just so happens, I have the transcript of an article from a magazine, a press release that was given here by the local press regarding one of the members of the government of the state of Arizona by the name of Jake Hoffman. He's a senator here in the state of Arizona. And I'm reading from this article. Calling Satan an explicit enemy of God, a state senator is pushing to keep displays of him by any name off public property. And then they quote Senator Hoffman. It is a desecration of our public property in the United States of America and in the state of Arizona for a satanic display, memorial, altar to be on public property. Well, naturally, when they were voting on this, and the final vote is not there, it's just come out of committee, the Satanic Temple people and their acolytes started showing up, and they expressed their thinking at the hearings. So there was a gentleman by the name of Micah, kind of interesting, named after a biblical person, said, I am genuinely impressed that in only 25 words, this bill seems to violate 3 separate clauses of the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. And then he goes on to say, if you could go after the Satanic Temple, which is a religion, and it's officially recognized by the Internal Revenue Service as a religion. That's how far we've come in this country. The government puts its imprimatur on a satanic cult. Okay. He said if they could go after the Satanic Temple, what about paganism next? Oh, God forbid we should say witchcraft is wrong in America. What about Judaism? What about Islam? What about LDS, the Mormons? Nobody's talking about the Mormons here. Nobody's talking about Islam. Nobody's talking about Judaism. We're talking about Satanism. But of course they're going to draw this link. To all of this, State Senator Hoffman said, it is legally and constitutionally suspect to argue that Satan, someone who is universally known to be an explicit enemy of God, is somehow a religion. Well, they want to be a religion, but it's a make-up religion. And here is what another one of the proponents of this demonic statue said. Any religion that could be viewed by the sponsors or this committee, if they view it to be a desecration of Christianity, they are no longer safe in Arizona. What are we going to do? Burn Satanists at the stake? Of course not. They said this proposal is literally trying to erase any religious group that does not agree with your view of Christianity. Well, first of all, nobody's being erased. The Internal Revenue Service has given its stamp of approval that it's a religion. How they got that, I will never know. But when you see the stuff that goes on in the government today, that's no big shock. So what this gentleman is saying is that this senator who's just saying, look, we don't want this a public property, and we don't expect the public to pay for it. Well, pay for it in various kinds of ways. But the point is, we're not going to sponsor it as a state. You're free to go do what you want to do, but you're not going to have that. And then Hoffman went on to say, according to this article, it's just a restriction of public property. It's justified and does not infringe on individual rights. And now this is interesting. Hoffman says, I find it ironic that in Iowa, you can knock over a satanic display and go to jail for that. Do you know about that? That happened in Iowa. They put up one of these statues. They allowed him to do it. And a Christian who was infuriated by it took a hammer or a club or something and knocked the head off of Baphomet. Well, good for him. He said, well, now, are you endorsing acts of violence to enforce your belief? No, I'm not. I'm glad that the guy did it, but I wouldn't have done it. I'm not sure that was the right way to go about this, but his holy indignation apparently got the best of him in that situation. And he got arrested for it. But here's what Senator Hoffman goes on to say, and this is a very good point. He said that this guy beheads the statue in Iowa's Capitol. This happened last December. And he goes on to say, but yet, in the U.S. Capitol, you could have a gay sex orgy in a government building and there are zero consequences. I'm just quoting the senator. And most of you know what happened. That did happen in the Senate chamber. A couple of guys, at least one of them anyway, was on the staff of a United States senator and had access to Senate chambers right there. The most hallowed spot outside of the Oval Office in the American government where all laws of our nation are passed. And they filmed it. They filmed these two guys having sex. Nothing happened to them. Nothing. No recrimination whatsoever. I guess he got fired or dismissed. But they arrested the man who's a Christian who knocked off Satan's head. That's where we're at in this country. So, I want to show you a little clip. These people, the Satanic Temple. I know some of these people. They have been to more than one of my seminars to act up. But a couple of years ago, one of their main chapters is in Detroit, Michigan. And a couple of dozen of them showed up. We didn't throw them out. I said as long as they behaved. They've been drinking a little bit. I said as long as you behave, you're welcome to sit here and listen. Now, I want you to take a look at this. This is a short clip of what happened when I confronted the Satanic Temple in that Detroit seminar. Okay, so let me find out who's here. Now, are the three of you from the Satanic Temple?
The two of us are principal members of the Satanic Temple.
You two are from the Satanic Temple, and you are from?
I'm the High Priestess of Satan House, a local satanic coven.
Your name, sir?
Otho. It's Thomas, but Otho.
Okay, all right. And how long have you been involved in this?
Satanism my entire adult life in one way or another, but seriously over the last 5 years.
Okay. And you, ma'am?
Over 10 years.
10 years. Okay. And your name, sir?
Well, I give you my satanic moniker, which is Hollow.
Okay. And what was it you were telling me about my contribution to your descent of the satanic path?
It was powerful. Your radio show was an ever-present force guiding me to liberation.
You're trying to tell me that my radio show guided you to the devil?
Me too.
I mean, it absolutely.
Oh, well, that's cute. You were the one with the book.
Yes, sir.
So you got some oldies of mine way back to the Satanism book that I wrote.
That's right.
What'd you say to me back there a little earlier?
I bought that book from a Spencer's Gifts when I was 16 years old. And Bob, I've been waiting for this moment since I was a teenager. Now I'm 36 years old, yeah.
You waited 20 years for this moment.
That's right.
Pleasure to meet you.
It is an absolute, unbelievable pleasure to meet you, Bob.
Thank you, thank you. Are you guys active participants in the Satanic Temple here?
Satan House is probably the most active local satanic coven. Hollow and I are old school members of the Detroit Satanic Temple as well.
And she's the high priestess.
Of Satan House.
Of course.
Yeah, and I'm the high priest.
High priest and high priestess, okay. You seem to be really proud of this.
Oh, of course.
How were you raised?
Nothing.
Nothing. So you went from nothing to something.
I went from nothing to more nothing.
That's actually true.
Yeah.
And whose idea was it to come here tonight?
Mine.
Yours. You got all these people together? And why are you here?
Well, because we're all enormous fans of yours, Bob, and we were hoping for, if you were being confronted by the forces of darkness, literally, really concretely, we were hoping for some serious exorcism action.
Well, it's not like I don't have enough opportunity.
Yeah, sure.
The opportunity is unlimited here tonight.
Truly, yes. Yeah.
And here's the catch. To get free from demons, you have to want to get rid of the demons.
Yes, I'm familiar with your hedge theory, yes. Been reading.
Yeah, I guess you watch me on YouTube.
I've been reading your books and what have you, yes.
Okay, but if you want to get rid of your demons, there must be a will involved. And I can't imagine any of you openly tonight wanting to get rid of your demons.
No, like Beetlejuice, I'm crawling with them, yeah.
Okay, no humor. Seriously.
Certainly, no, yeah.
I can't imagine any of you wanting to get rid of your demons. In fact, of course, demons is just an archetypal construct for you. That has no literal connotation, right?
I'll take any demons that anyone doesn't want.
You know, I actually had that happen one time in a seminar. I was casting demons out of someone, and I had somebody as stupid as that stand up, sorry ma'am, but you were, and say that, and say that.
Come on, Bob.
Yeah, well, that's just really a dumb thing to say. She's a delightful young lady. I'm sure she's very sweet, but that's dumb.
You do so well.
It would get you demons. So I want to assure her and anybody else here tonight, if we have any demons, we are sending them to the pit of hell.
Yeah!
So what do I really think about this idea of demonic displays on public property? First of all, what's going on here is not a group of serious, dedicated, patriotic Americans defending the First Amendment. This is my opinion. So this is a fake lobbying act. And it's really an excuse for other satanic agendas. Now, you can look this up in the internet if you doubt me. But one of their big issues of the Satanic Temple is the legalization of abortion, essentially at any time up to and including birth. So this is really a pro-abortion lobby, and they actually have a blood ritualized ceremony that they encourage women to go through, and they lay this all out in satanic belief. So you take an abortifacient to kill the unborn child, and then you go through this ritual, and they give you the words. What happens is, the abortifacient you get from the Satanic Temple. So they are claiming the right as a church to dispense something which causes a miscarriage deliberately. They're claiming a legal, constitutional, religious right to offer that through the mail. All you have to do is go online and sign up as a member of the Satanic Temple. I kid you not. And then they lead the women through a series of satanic beliefs while they are miscarrying the baby. Freedom of religion? Public displays of Baphomet in the halls of the legislatures of the United States of America? And something else that they're against. Any sexual mores of any kind. In the Satanic Temple, there are no rules. Do what thou wilt. Do what you want to do. Do what feels good. Nothing is right. Nothing is wrong. And as you probably aren't surprised, not only is abortion, not only is sexual immorality part of their agenda, but of course, guess what? Anti-Second Amendment. They're against gun ownership, the right to keep and to bear arms. So that's the other thing. You get the idea this is a political lobbying group using a tax-exempt religious status of worshiping the devil. Now, these people have attended my seminars, just as I showed you. I have allowed them to speak. And what you saw was a short clip. But I had these people up on stage for about 30 minutes and questioned them about several of their belief systems. I let them speak, but they've refused me the same opportunity. We invited them to be here right now tonight. They didn't even respond. When they had their national convention a couple of years ago in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is a suburb of Phoenix, I contacted them and said, I want to come, and I want to interview some of your people. I want to talk to them. Nothing. Wouldn't let me in. Wouldn't give me any access. I said, well, while you're in town, how about I interview some of you? Nothing. Do you get the idea here? They have a closed system. They have a predetermined agenda, and it is anti-Christian. It is anti-Judeo-Christian. And it's actually anti any kind of established religious belief system. They are claiming the right to say what they want to say in the public square, but not to debate people like me, even though I've allowed them to speak in my seminars. Not because I want them to speak, because I want to expose what they really believe, and I'm not afraid to have them state what they believe so it becomes self-evident to people. To them, the First Amendment, free speech, means their right to public theater and psychodrama mocking Christianity. But to them, free speech does not mean an intelligent, meaningful debate and dialogue about what they really believe. So why did I even allow them to be interviewed by me and talk about their beliefs in public? Two reasons. One, they were sitting on the front row. They were the first people in the door when we opened the doors that night. And there was an incredible exorcism that took place that night. If you go to YouTube and you click on The Devil in Detroit, you'll go back and see all the footage and the exorcism, the amazing deliverance of a young woman that night, which they saw. And in the middle of that exorcism, this demon manifested, pointed at the Satan and said, "These people are my puppets." But something happened earlier. Everybody arrived. I walked out into the audience with my microphone and I spoke to a couple of individuals before I brought all these people up on stage. And I was particularly touched by one young woman sitting there in the aisle, and I stopped and just spoke with her for a moment and interviewed her and asked her why she was a Satanist. And she said to me, "When are you Christians going to put a stop to sexual abuse in the church?" Well, some of that has gone on. No question about it. It's gone on in our Catholic Church. It's gone on in evangelical churches. That doesn't make God wrong, and that doesn't give people a license to worship the devil. But I said to her, "Were you abused?" And she had this pained look on her face, and she said, "Yes." Now, I don't think there's anybody who's had more contact through the years over several decades with people involved in theistic and non-theistic Satanism, including members of Anton LaVey's family, the founder of Satanism in America. And one thing I've discovered, not all, but many of these people are running from Christianity. Many of them were raised in the church, and they've gone over to the dark side, sort of like the Templars. They switched sides because they became angry at God. They confused human indignities and failure with the Lord, and they threw the whole thing out. And that's what this young woman had done. She'd been hurt by the church. She'd been abused by someone in a church, so she claims. So what did she do? She ran to the other side. She ran to the dark. She became angry at God. Some of you out there have been hurt by the church. You've been disappointed in the church. You may have been raised by Christian parents who had more legalism than grace. There could be a lot of things that happened. And you turn to drugs, alcohol, sex, maybe even Satan. Because of the hypocrisy of the church, because of inconsistencies, or abuse you suffer directly or indirectly by the church or people who are members of the church. If you want to, you can live in that bitterness and claim this book as a lie, and claim that the cross of Christ means nothing, thinking it will make you feel better, but it won't. The people who were hypocrites, the people who may have abused you, like this young woman was abused that I just referred to, God will deal with them. Vengeance belongs to the Lord. Leave it to Him. Don't switch sides. Come back to the Lord. It's not God's fault. He wants to heal your pain. So if for some reason you've been disappointed in the church or Christian people, welcome to reality. I have too. Maybe not like some of you, but believe me, I've been on the receiving end as a very public religious figure for decades. The receiving end of vitriolic hate and anger, especially because of my stand on deliverance and exorcism, that you can't even imagine, coming from major Christian leaders. I could name them, who've attacked me on national television. National television, not over here on some internet site on YouTube. I understand a little bit of what you've had to go through, but Jesus didn't do that. The devil did that. Baphomet did that. And right now, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, I take authority over those evil spirits that have twisted your thinking, that have caused you to reject God because of God's people. And I bind those spirits for the lies they're telling you, and I invite you to come back to the cross and experience the true love of Jesus Christ. That's the real reason that I'm doing this topic tonight. No matter what you've done for the devil, no matter what blasphemous things you may have uttered to prove your allegiance to Satan and your rejection of God, you're not damned. You're not beyond repentance. and mercy. The Lord will take you back just like that. And then if you need deliverance from those demons, get in touch with us. I'd love to have the opportunity to have a virtual or a face-to-face encounter with you in person, as I would many of you out there, especially some of you who are in Satanism or have been involved in some type of demonic ritualism. Jesus loves you. The power of Christ is stronger. Get in touch with us and let me help you. I want you to know that no matter what you've done, no matter how far you've gone from God, even if you are a Satanist, through Jesus, you can get free, stay free, and live free.
Your financial support and prayers make it possible for us to bring hope for the hurting and freedom to those in spiritual bondage. For the latest information regarding ministry outreaches, go to boblarson.org or call 303-980-15.